I mean, I think the thing about agents is people think, well, I'm going to go develop an agent, and they look at how much the job is worth out there by a human. So, you want to develop an AI lawyer, and you think lawyers get paid a lot of money. So I'll be able to develop an AI lawyer, and the lawyers, I'm going to be able to charge huge amounts of money.
Tens of thousands of dollars a month.
Exactly, right? But the reason lawyers are expensive is because their time is scarce, because there's only so many people who have undergone that training. But by the time you've made an AI model out of it, well, now there's effectively an infinite number of lawyers. And so it's not scarce at all. And maybe you, with your AI lawyer startup, will be able to have a lead over other people. But it's the same frontier model underneath. And, some other startup can come in and compete that away. And so we should expect to see it priced at some opportunity cost over the cost of compute.
So most companies are not going to make it. A handful will, and we can talk about those. And so if you're running an AI company right now, you should ask yourself, what is the nature of the durability of your company? And are you one of that dozen or two that are going to be really important 10 years from now? Or is now a good moment for you to sell because what you're doing will start to get commoditized, or will be competed by a lab, or will be something that the market will shift or the technology will shift and you'll become obsolete. And there's a handful of companies that will continue to be great. They should never sell. They should never exit. They should keep going. But there's probably a lot of companies that now, or the next 12 to 18 months, is the best moment for them possible in terms of the value that they'll get for what they're doing. And for every company, there's a value maximizing moment where they hit their peak. And it's usually a window. There's usually, 6, 12 months where what you're doing is important enough, you're scaling enough, everything's working before some headwind hits you. And sometimes it's very predictable that headwind is coming and you can see it. And often you see it in the second derivative of growth. Like how fast are you growing starts to plateau a little bit, and you're either going to keep going up or you should sell.
I know that.
So either you use more tokens and you generate economic value, outsized economic value for the use of those tokens. A lot of people are doing it the boring, lazy way. Oh, I guess I'll just work 1 hour a day instead of 8 hours a day, and I'll have AI do most of my job. That's the boring way. The cool way is I'll still work 8 hours a day, and I'll do 8x the work, and maybe I'll make 5x the money. Maybe not, you can't do this with a job, obviously. There's people who have multiple jobs. There's people who start companies and start selling stuff. Get that economic value on this AI before everyone is using it in its table stakes, because it's still not table stakes. If you don't use more tokens and generate the value from them and capture that value, there's 3 different problems here: using more tokens, generating value from those tokens, and capturing value from those from the value that you created from the tokens. If you don't do these 3 things, you'll never escape the permanent underclass, i.e., as models continue to skyrocket in capability and the concentration of resources potentially happens.
This is maybe one of the more important things, which is just because you are using AI to create a lot of activity does not necessarily mean that the activity that you're creating is valuable. And so I'll give you a good example of this. I was kind of bored yesterday. I was flying back from a meeting that I had in Japan, and I thought it would be like a really good opportunity on this long flight to go build this super frivolous app that I've wanted to build for a while. So I've got 2 teenage kids, and for a while, I was doing this thing to irritate them by only communicating with them via meme. So I would send them a meme, and they'd be like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And then I'd send them another meme, and he's like, "Dad, really irritating." And then I'd send him another meme. And I was like, this is kind of labor intensive, like me having to generate all of these memes. Like, I want like a meme chat app that generates these things for me. And for a while, that seemed like an extremely frivolous thing to do and a horrendous waste of my time. But I was like, let me give it a shot. So I coded this whole app on the plane. I think I had 65 PRs over the course of this flight. And yeah, it was kind of fun to do. Completely, other than my own sense of enjoyment, valueless. Do not expect Kevin Scott to be launching, a meme chat app anytime soon. And so,
the output tokens. If you're literally just a reseller of model tokens, you have no business, because the model will get commoditized. So even if you're a model builder, you don't have a business. As an infra layer, you have some business on serving those output tokens. But as an application layer or a model builder, you don't really have a business if you're just a reseller of tokens that come directly out of the model. You have a business if you know how to take the model, ground it in valuable context, orchestrate it with a really good agent harness, connect it to the right set of tools and connectors, whether it's personal connectors or business connectors, and provide the experience to people in one single unified system.
Weirdly, the billable hour problem is the same problem that I think the entire world is about to run into. Like the billable hour, for those that don't know what it is, it basically is when you get a bill from a law firm, it says in 6-minute increments what people did, and then the hourly rate, or the 6-minute increment for that task, right? Why do they do that? It is because they're trying to show ROI. They're like, hey, your legal bill's 100 grand. We're gonna break it down into 6-minute increments, right? This is kind of like the main problem that I think the entire world is about to hit, which is, I just spent $1 billion on tokens. Where's my ROI, right? And I actually think that like, there aren't enough companies that I know of that are starting to think about how do I actually show ROI in every single vertical use of these things. And I think that vertical companies are gonna have a huge advantage here, where you can start to get to the point where you basically can show every single token and what the ROI was of that token for your particular task in a vertical.
Both on one hand, everywhere I look, I'm like, there's never been more opportunity to go and build something. And at the same time, obviously the models are doing more than they've ever done before. I think there's like, there's that threat of capability overhang, which I think there's a huge amount of alpha in. There's the threat of the model companies are like going after these like very general problems. And there's just like so much value in these like verticalized domains. If you have expertise in that domain, you sort of like know the customers, you know the ecosystem, like it's just, you can really like run laps around even the best model labs, because like focus is the like superpower of startups. Like if you can focus, you can do anything. And if you
not the tool. If you make the model time go to 0, I think we're going to start to realize that our tools are too slow. Our tools are designed for sort of human cadence interaction in a lot of cases, like list me the files in the directory, or like do this SQL query and give me the results. Like that's not very good if your model can do those 100 times faster, make those calls 100 times faster than a human can.
As we transition to a world in which the marginal cost of producing software plummets, maybe asymptotes to close to 0, there's sort of a question of, well, what will determine which software companies are valuable and how valuable they are? And I think it's pretty obviously true that the answer is not that none of them will be. I think the simplest demonstration of this is an exchange. Like an exchange is just a software program, but the value is in the coordination that everyone has chosen to trade there. There's the most liquidity there. You get the best prices, either a buyer or a seller. And so it's not the case, like the hard part of setting up an exchange is not writing the code for the exchange. It's convincing everybody to coordinate around yours rather than somebody else's.
In many ways, the software was maybe there are a few cases of businesses where they built like tremendously like difficult to produce and test software, but for the most cases, I don't think it ever was the moat.
Okay,
Stay in your lane. Everyone's going to be try to be the operating system of blah, and like there's going to be like 1,000 operating systems, and like everyone wants to be like that top layer, and then most of them will lose, and that's just how it is. So they will try, and to the extent that they're good at products or good at coding or whatever, they will get there. I think whoever owns off tends to win. So whoever owns like the thing that cannot be moved, or like you're authoritative anyway, you just have like an undefeatable prime position as opposed to the other people. So like I think when you play this like sort of Game of Thrones, like where you start really matters. Because that dictates where you can move next, and whoever starts with off does tend to win there. So, for example, like Rippling, right? Like their start was famously compound startup. They want to do everything. They want to be the operating system or anything, but they pick the right starting point, which is we will own your org chart, and then you can layer on like IT admin on top of that. You can layer on like payroll on top of that, whatever. But like we will first own your org chart, because once we know everyone in your company, it is so easy to add anyone and do like SSO and what have you. And so
I said one of the things that they do is if you search on Spotify for like Taylor Swift, Shake It Off, like they return results and they know that those results are what you were actually looking for. On the other hand, if you search for like, I want a song to a disco beat about how much fun it is to dance with my cat, they also return results, but they know that they probably don't have that. And what they do is they actually publish those queries that are sort of bad results back to music creators. And there are hundreds of music creators that are making a living off just doing this. One in particular is based in Denmark. Daniel shared is making something like 40 million euros a year just writing songs for unfulfilled Spotify queries. And I think there's something that's actually quite beautiful about that, because if you search for like something on Spotify, what you're searching for is how do I kind of bring an emotion out? And so going forward, like we, for the first time in human history, have essentially a mathematical model of all of human knowledge. That's what the LLMs are, right? It's not perfect, but it gives you that. It also shows you where the gaps are, where there are the holes. I picture like a giant block of Swiss cheese. There's lots of cheese, but there's a lot of holes in the cheese. And when you talk to the AI companies, what they want is highly reputable sources that are filling in the holes in the cheese, that are contributing net new knowledge.
But here's the thing that's interesting. In the last 27 years, we calculated somewhere between 20 to 30 million people we didn't call back. We did not call them back because we didn't have the people to do it. So just this week, I called back 50,000 people, just through agents. So I can qualify. I just bought a company called Qualified, so I can qualify the agents, call people back, the BDR, the SDR function. I can go outbound. I can do things I could never do before. That is made possible by this AI automation, linking it then to the apps. You can go to another level.